Hey, this is our Retronix, and here you'll learn how to install the expansion kit for the Gamesir G8 Plus. The kit includes the expansion piece, the retainer, and in the small bag, you'll find the black heat shrink tube. A small bag with 2 wires. A small bag with 4 black heat shrink tubes. And a bag with screws. The clip doesn't include tools. During the installation, I'll tell you all the tools you'll need. So let's get started. We remove the faceplates from both sides of the controller. Then, with a screwdriver, you can unscrew the 4 front screws, the ones on the right side and the ones on the left side. Now we need to remove the front rubber. To do this, we'll need a heat gun, or you can also use a hair dryer. We heat up the piece a bit. And then we lift it up. You can use something to help lift it up. Pay close attention to the line where the rubber starts, which is not at the far left of the controller, as you can see in the image. Now we need to remove 3 screws that are located under this rubber. Now, with something thin, it can be a credit card or a tool like the one I'm showing, you have to insert it into the right side of the controller in order to separate it. This controller is held together by pressure, so just by inserting this piece, you'll be able to separate it easily. Once separated, we must remove the white flat cable, as you can see in the image. You have to lift a small tab that's holding it in place. And once you lift it, you'll be able to pull out the cable. And that's how the entire right piece will come out from the back. Now we lift this little sticker, because behind it are 2 screws. Once the sticker is removed, we'll move on to removing the 6 screws that are in this piece. 2 behind the sticker and 4 more that you can see on the screen. Now we need to separate the left side of the controller. We also insert something thin, as we can see on the screen, just to separate this part. Once we separate this, we apply pressure like this. We put our thumb here and our index finger here and apply pressure with quite a bit of force. And that's how the piece will come out. This piece doesn't have any cables connected, so there's no problem applying pressure. Now we need to remove the connector that we see on the screen. That's the connector that connects both sides to charge the battery. This is what we need to expand with the wires. It's held in place by pressure, so we can just slide something thin underneath to lift it up. Now we'll need something to cut the wire. We cut the wire approximately in half. To be more specific, there are two wires, one gray and one black. Now we need to strip the wires to remove the insulation and leave just the metal. I'm going to use an automatic wire stripper. And these are the wires that come included in the kit. To strip the wire, you need to use something that helps you cut it. It doesn't have to be an automatic wire stripper like this one, but be very careful. Before stripping the wires, which are included in the kit, we need to take 2 of the tubes, small, black, heat shrink tubes, and insert one into the black wire and the other into the gray wire. This way, it will be easier to insert them, because if we strip the wires first, it will be harder later. Once they are inserted, now we can strip the wire included in the kit. Now we need to splice the wires from the kit with the wires that we cut in the remote. We connect the gray with the gray and the black with the black. We simply join them together and roll them up, and now we slide the heat shrink tube to the part where the wires are connected, just like you can see in the picture. Once that's done, we need to take the heat gun or the hairdryer and apply heat to the tubes. Heat shrink. This way, they will stick to the wires and protect them. As you can see, the heat shrink tubes stuck to the wires. Now you need to take the large heat shrink tube included in the kit and slide the wires through it. Stretch them out and take the left end and slide them into the tube. You need to be patient when inserting it, because there might be some parts of the heat shrink tube that are bent. So, once you've slid them through, in the areas where you see it won't go any further, you should gradually push it in and also try to flatten the heat shrink tube a bit where the wire is passing through. This might seem a bit complicated, but it really isn't. You just have to do it with patience and slowly. Once you see the ends of the wire, on the other side of the heat shrink tubing, you just need to pull them a bit until they reach the right piece. Once you've done that, slide the small heat shrink tubing onto the wires, one on the black and one on the gray. Strip the wires, and also strip the wires that were left on the control. And now we repeat the process. We connect the gray wire to the gray wire and the black wire to the black wire. Just like we did before, you just have to glue the two together and then wrap the wires around it. Once they're twisted, just like we did on the other side, we simply need to lay them down towards the narrower part or towards the cable. Then fact. We slide the small heat shrink tubing to cover the wire of the cable. After sliding the heat shrink tubing on, we apply heat to it, but being careful not to apply heat directly to the tubing. Large heat shrink tubing. After you've heated the black heat shrink tubing, you need to wait for them to cool down a bit, since now we're going to slide on top of them the larger heat shrink tubing. We must slide it until the large black heat shrink tube connects with the two small heat shrink tubes at the ends. And now we apply heat with the heat gun. Remember, you can use a hairdryer. Once we have applied heat, the heat shrinkable tube, it will get smaller to stick to the wire. Be careful because it will be hot. Now I'm going to use a small box to help me place the extension piece. We take this part of the extension piece and slide it under the control, just like we see in the picture. We stretch and position it. Now we take the cable, and on the right side, right where the small connection is, there's a little black square. We need to insert it in this part of the control. There are two small sticks there that are going to fit into two small holes that the piece has. Here, as you can see, that piece connects with the other piece that's in the control. To introduce it, we separate the control a bit to apply pressure without bending the other piece. We apply pressure on the small board, and we press again. Now we need to test that the connection works. Here, there's a blue light that's blinking. When do we separate them? As you can see in the picture, when you stick them together, it should stop blinking. You need to pay close attention to whether it's making a connection. If you don't connect, it will still flash, but it shouldn't be perfect here because the controller is disassembled. You just have to verify that when you separate it, the light turns on, and when it makes a connection, it stops blinking. If you see that the light is constantly blinking and won't stop, it is most likely because you have pressed the button that is blinking. If that's the case, you should wait between 5 to 10 minutes for it to stop blinking. Now we place the wire like you see here, through the channel, and we run it through this part of the control on the left side. It has to go on top. Then we insert it into the place where the battery goes, and we hold it with the battery. The wire should be like this, since there's a small button there, and the wire would interrupt the pressure on the button. Now we take the piece. We position it and apply pressure. We'll hear several clicks. And then we test the button to make sure it's clicking correctly. If it doesn't do it, if you see that it's stiff, it's because the wire is behind this piece. So you need to separate it again, position the wire better, and put it back together. Don't keep going, Armando, if you don't see that the button clicks. Now we screw in the screws. The screws should always go back in the same place you took them out from, since some are different sizes. Now we place the other part of the extender. We apply pressure, and we position it. Now we're going to screw in with the screws that come with the kit. There are 6 screws, 4 big ones and 2 small ones. The 4 big ones will go on the left side and in the middle, and the 2 small ones will go on the right side. Now we take the last part of the control, the flat white wire. We need to reconnect it. You can make a small bend so it stays straighter and is easier to handle. We insert it, and once we've inserted it correctly and straight, we lower the small tab. If it doesn't work out well the first time, take your time and try again. It should look like this, just like you see in the picture. Now we position the control piece and apply pressure. We'll hear several clicks. We separate the rubber to introduce the 3 screws. You can heat it up a bit to make it come out more easily. Also, remember to press all the buttons on the control to make sure they all click and work properly. We position the 3 screws and we screw them in.
So loud as the hours pass, we're gonna do it all again.
Now, we press the rubber. The best way to do it is like I show and do in the picture. As you can see, the control light is blinking. It's what I was telling you earlier. While I was handling the control, I pressed the button. That's blinking. And it will keep doing this for several minutes, between 5 and 10 minutes. We place the screws on the right and screw them in. And now we place the screws on the left and screw them in too. As you can see, the light is no longer blinking. We place the left and right faceplates, and with that, we've completed the installation. Notice that we're going to test it. We separate it, and the light turns on. We put it back together, and the light doesn't turn on anymore. Let's try again. We separate it. The light turns on. We put it back together, and it doesn't turn on. A lot of times when you disconnect and reconnect it, sometimes it stays blinking or it doesn't. We put it back together, and the light doesn't turn on. A lot of times when you disconnect and reconnect it, sometimes it stays blinking or it doesn't. It blinks. But that's normal. It can even happen with the control without having the expansion installed. But after trying a few times, this should be the behavior. When you separate it, it blinks. When you put it back together, it stops blinking. And here you can see the control holder. This holder is used. Since having expanded the control, it's now too big to use with cell phones. But the holder will help you keep using it with your phone, if that's what you want. As a little bonus for this video, you can see that we've also developed expansion kits for the Hulk and Thanos versions. The gold controller is the Thanos version, and the green controller is the Hulk version. If you want, you can also buy these controllers with the kit already installed, or buy the expansion to install it yourself. Here you can see the expanders for each controller. The dark gray, the purple, and the green. Let's take a closer look. We haven't released these expansion kits for the Thanos and Thor versions. Please leave comments if you'd like us to put them up for sale. And that's all for the installation of the Gamesir G8 Plus controller expansion kit. It hasn't been that hard, right? Remember that you can buy the Gamesir G8 Plus controller with the kit pre-installed or you can just buy the expansion kit to install it yourself. Both are available in our store. OurRtronicsCreation.com